Hello, and welcome to the season 3 finale of Awkward Family Conversations, where we try to help millennials and Gen Z Zoomers figure it out. So I'm joined as always by my younger daughter, Addie. Addie, do you think of yourself as a thrill seeker? And Addie's cat, Claire, our audio intern. Do you think of yourself as a thrill seeker?
In moderation.
Really?
Yes.
Because when you were a child, and when I say child, I mean like 18 months, 2 years old, I used to throw you very high in the air, and you loved it. I mean, not just a little toss. I mean, I'd throw you as high in the air as I possibly could. And I saw a guy doing that with his daughter at the park earlier this week. But he wasn't doing it like I did with you. But I would start you at my knees and then just bring you all the way up and throw you as high as I could. And you would float up there in the air with this huge smile on your face, and your eyes were enormous. And then I'd concentrate very hard and on your chest so I could catch you when you came back down. And your mother and your grandmother were not enamored of the practice, but you enjoyed it tremendously. You would get a big thrill of it, and you asked me to do it a lot. So I did do it a lot, but we won't be doing it again. I don't think, I mean, I could get you probably 3 or 4 feet past my arms up in the air with that kind of momentum. So you were flying pretty high, and you were enjoying it. So when you were a youngster, you were quite the thrill seeker anyway.
That was the most fun game, for sure.
I'm sure you don't remember any of it, but
I do actually remember some of it. I have a distinct memory. We were at a Walnut Creek house,
yep.
And you got home from work, and I charged you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, throw me!
Yeah.
And you did, and Mom was like, Rhett! Because you did it like right underneath like the door in the living room area.
Yeah, where the chandelier is, yeah.
Yeah. She did not love that, but I remember looking down from being up and looking down from the air, and Mom going, Brett! At that moment.
Oh, good. I'm glad you remember that. That's a fun memory for me too. So.
They're great.
Hello, Addie. How are you?
Good. Hey, Dad. My Rhett trivia today is a little bit short, but probably somewhere between 15 to 20 years ago, he went to a brain doctor. And he told him the single worst thing anyone's ever told a patient ever, which was that he's completely normal, which he has been using as justification for every weird thing that he does forever. Is that, no, I'm completely normal.
A doctor has actually diagnosed me as being completely normal. So the doctor, an expert, said I was completely normal. So.
We'll let the fans who have listened to all of the Rhett trivia bits over the last 30 episodes, last 29 episodes, the 30th episode, last 29 episodes, if they think that you are indeed completely normal. Completely normal.
Well, I mean, we can go with the layperson's opinion, or we can go with the expert. So,
have we seen a doctor about this for 20 years?
Well, I didn't have to. I saw the doctor already. He told me I was completely normal. So.
Okay.
Anyway, what's our topic for today, Ad, for our season 3 finale?
Our topic today, as the cat gives me a very dirty look because my lap apparently is not comfortable enough for her, so she's gonna come back, is when should I leave a job or employer?
When should you leave a job or employer? Yes, so season 3 has all been about the workplace and various issues. And last week we talked about burnout and stress and, kind of that, when is it time to leave a job or an employer? Ad, you've had a few jobs and you've left all of them on your own accord. What's been the catalyst when you've left jobs before?
Almost every time except the last time has been just like circumstance. So like obviously my job back home in California, I worked it until I went to college.
Right.
And then when I got back from college, I didn't want to commute out to Pleasant Hill, so I got a different job. There was one time, I guess, it wasn't a circumstance change, but I was really tired of the way that the bakery I was working at as a barista was being run. Did not like that place. So I left and was like, I'm not going to come back because my next semester is going to be really hard, which was also part of it. But they were scheduling me like way over what I said I could work. And then before I got back into town, because I left for Christmas, it closed. So
Yeah.
nice. No bridges
But
were burned that time.
you'd already decided not to go back. So you had made the decision not to return.
Yeah. So I guess there was the management issue. And then the most recent job was the, I needed more money.
Yeah.
So I went to a full-time job.
Yeah. Well, you've also had an interesting thing in that you decided to leave a career that you were training for. I mean, you spent your first 3 years of college and then an additional year just to finish it out, studying and preparing for a career in audio engineering, and decided instead to go into animal care. Why, kind of what went into that decision? We've talked a little bit about it in previous episodes, but this is a similar kind of situation where you've decided to make a change, professional change.
Yeah.
And, what was the driving force there?
Honestly, there were a lot of little things that led up to the dissatisfaction with the music industry in general. I was like, this business is run not how I want my relationship to my career to be. Less so now, honestly, post-COVID, but pre-COVID, it was very much like you should eat, sleep, and breathe music. And if you don't want to be here for 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, you don't want it badly enough.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess I don't want it badly enough.
Yeah, that's kind of the macho way, which is, who show your commitment, or we expect your commitment to be a certain level. And
and I realized that like I had other goals with my life that weren't compatible with that kind of lifestyle. Like I want a makeshift family. I want my partner and a bunch of animals. And I want to spend time with people I love. And I also want to pursue other interests too. Is another thing is I have a lot of hobbies that I don't want to be making money off of. But the music industry does not believe in hobbies. So all of those, and then combined with the fact that I used to do animals when I was in high school. And that was like the other thing was I did music and I did animals, the Lindsay Wildlife Museum.
Yeah.
And I just realized there was a very big thing missing from my life, and that was having animals around. It's kind of a game changer for whether or not I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's no question that you've always been somebody who enjoys sort of the physical presence of other beings, and whether those are friends and family or.
And musicians just don't get it. So.
Not all musicians, and it doesn't fit maybe with the audio engineering. Well, we are interesting because I think you've touched on a lot of the things that would be reasons for leaving a job, leaving an employer, leaving a company. Our 2 minutes of internet research this week, we went back to thebalancedcareers.com, terrific resource. Also the Muse, which we've used before, themuse.com and Forbes.com. So we've revisited some of our previous sources for this question about when's it time to move on. And basically, there's tons of reasons, and you've already talked about a few of them, and we can come up with dozens and dozens if we wanted to. But they all kind of break down into two big categories. Things change or things happen externally outside of your immediate situation, that happen outside of you personally, and then there's things that happen internally to you as well. And you talked about your need to have a more robust life than audio engineering would have allowed if you were actually going to try to pursue audio engineering as a serious career. It wasn't going to leave you the time and space to do other things that you had in your life. So your priorities weren't going to be recognized. And so, that's kind of an internal reason for it. And then, as you said before, just some of the external, the company's isn't managed the way you liked it, in the case of the bakery. And so that would be an external factor that kind of determined that you didn't really want to continue in the role with the firm. So you've got these internal and external factors, and they both come into play. Some of the external factors, there's changes in the environment. If you're it's the old thing about the buggy whip factory at the time of the automotive revolution. If there's environmental or broader socioeconomic trends that are putting your job at risk, you're better off kind of actively pursuing an exit than just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. There are things that happen all the time out there in our very dynamic economy. Government regulation happens, foreign competition happens, all kinds of technology advances, and all those things can change an organization's prospects at a very big level. And you may choose to leave your firm because, you're making buggy whips at a time when cars are coming in and there's no need for your buggy whips. And so there's those kind of environmental or external big picture things that could certainly be at the heart of a decision to leave. So there's nothing wrong with you still like what you do, you still like where you do it, but the prospects longer term may not match up very well, and your longer term career, your longer term ability to work in that situation may change. So there's that piece. Then there's also just kind of things that happen organizationally. You can get the company, even if you're doing great things, there could be things that make the company outlook uncertain. You might get acquired by another company, for instance. There may have been some kind of bad decision that put your company on bad financial footings, things like that. So that, things that can happen overall to your company. There could be a change in your working conditions. Geez, you're going to move to a new office, but it's across town. Now your commute's gone from, maybe 20 minutes to an hour. Something like that could cause you to reconsider, do I want to continue to work here? Changing culture. Now, this doesn't usually happen with big companies because the cultures are pretty well established there. But if you're in a small organization and you're a handful of people, a change in one individual can really change the dynamics and change the culture of a company pretty significantly. And so, an owner retires and the next generation takes over. It could really change the company culture, and maybe it's no longer a fit. So, that could be a reason for you to think about, is this really where I want to be? Or a change in strategy too. The company has been doing one thing for a while and has decided, the growth in this adjacent market is where we want to go, and maybe that's not a really great fit for you. So there could be all these organizational things. You got these bigger environmental factors that happen. You have things that happen in the company, and then there can be position-specific things that happen. Things that we talked about, with your, with your bakery, where there wasn't actually a bakery thing was probably more of the company organization thing, but maybe there's something that positionally with the role that you're in that doesn't that no longer satisfies you, and there's really no other option available to you in that organization. So maybe you've mastered your job, you're bored, and you want something different, but there's really nowhere else to go. It could be that your responsibilities changed. And there's work that needs to be done. They've decided, your company's decided you're the one to do it, and that change doesn't offer you anything. And so you're kind of like, oh, well, this is, something's changed. It's not, I don't really want to do this. That's the time to think, well, okay, what are my options? And maybe I do need to think about leaving. And it's possible that there's been personnel changes. Either your coworkers or your boss has changed, and they're no longer offering the same kind of support, the same kind of enjoyment or relationship that you're used to, and that's not working for you either. So there's tons of stuff that can change in that external environment, either very, very specific to the role you're playing, all the way up to these very big macroeconomic kind of factors that would cause you to sort of reconsider your employment. And then there's the internal issues. We talked last week about how even though the job is sort of this, it's a set of tasks and responsibilities with other people you're working with, but it's still a relationship, the relationship that you have with your work. And you don't bring all aspects of yourself to the workplace, but you bring some, and it is a relationship. And as such, your relationship changes, and it can change, as I said, from the external side, but it can also change internally. Maybe your goals change a little bit. You really wanted to learn, something about animals. And so now you feel like, okay, I've done that, but now you want to learn something different. You want to learn something more. And it's kind of like, okay, well, does this job give me that opportunity to learn more? to accomplish the goals, the new goals that I've set, because your goals are going to evolve and they're going to change. And, a job that fits one goal may not fit the next one that you have. Your interests can change, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you could become intrigued by, something, and this happens pretty regularly. You'll get people, your career is going to be 40, 50 years long, and you'll get people who, will start in an area because they're really interested, say in audio engineering, and that can lead to something else. In your case, you made your decision to leave audio engineering and focus on animal care for a lot of reasons, but part of it is your interest in animal care. Your priorities changed a bit, and it was probably a combination of things like, boy, if I go audio engineering, I'm not going to have the time to do a lot of other things, and I miss animals, and I'm really interested in that. And so, those priorities, what's important to you and what you want to accomplish have changed as well. Also, very common for people to make changes be based on other relationships. You've got a partner, and you're serious about establishing a relationship, a marriage, or a committed relationship together. And but one of you has got a job that's going to require the other to move. And so again, it's a priorities, right? Okay, the job had priority. We were in this location, we could do it. My relationship has changed, and now that relationship is a higher priority than my current job, and so I'm willing to entertain the idea that I'll leave that job, sacrifice that job for my relationship, for instance. And then circumstances, like you said, geez, okay, I'm going to school in in a few months. I'm going back to get my PhD, and that's in Syracuse, New York, maybe. And now I've got to go, so I have to leave my job here and to go to Syracuse, New York, potentially at least, if you can't do it remotely. And so, there's all kinds of things that can change, and all of those, there's tons, and like I say, dozens and dozens and dozens of reasons that you'd leave your job to go, to pursue a new one.
Nice. How do you tell if whatever has changed is temporary or if it's like something to seriously consider?
Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about this last week when we were saying, the burnout. Are you feeling just a little bit of short-term stress, or are you burned out? And I'd say the answer is probably similar. When you're assessing, is this just a temporary thing that I got to get through because it's just, biorhythms or whatever it is, the tides, are pulling me one way or another, or is this really an ongoing thing? And so, anytime you feel negative emotions, and we tend to rationalize ourselves around work a lot. We try to try to divorce emotions away from the workplace, because emotions can make doing our work more challenging. And I think that's probably wrong. I think you don't want to, you always, as a person, you're experiencing emotions regularly all the time, and you want to be kind of plugged into how you're feeling. And anytime you're feeling negative emotions, you're going to feel stress. You want to pay attention to that kind of stuff, because you don't want those things to linger. But like we talked about last week, if you come home and you're tired and you're just out of sorts, you get a couple of days sleep, get some exercise, get to decompress a little bit, and you're feeling good again. That's a temporary thing. That's just kind of the ups and downs, the regular ups and downs of day-to-day life. But if your time, if you're feeling unfulfilled or anxious or upset, out of sorts, again, if it's just a few days and you're kind of back to feeling healthy and good, and you're excited again, your energy levels are good, then there's no really reason to think about leaving your job. On the other hand, if you're always, if it's weeks of just feeling tired, feeling low energy, you've had your physical checkup and there's nothing physically wrong with you to try to, that would explain why you're feeling down. Then you need to pay attention and think, well, maybe, if it's the job that's causing me to feel this way, maybe it is time to move on, because it's, weeks and weeks and weeks on end and it doesn't look like there's anything that can change, that's when you want to get serious about, okay, really, let me drill down a lot and start thinking about, would I feel better if I were somewhere else? That makes sense?
It does.
Yeah.
So what are like the details that will that you should be like paying attention to? Like, is there an outstanding thought that'll pop up? Or just like patterns more than just like taking some time and thinking about it?
Yeah, again, I go back to emotions really, and it's kind of ironic that I talk about emotions because I'm pretty disconnected from mine most of the time. But I think they are important indicators of things. We'll sense things, we'll feel things, even as our mind tries to explain them away or tries to rationalize and make excuses for it. But for me, I think the most important thing to look at is how you feel when you go to work. When you think about going to work, are you excited about it? I used to tell my folks that worked for me on my teams that if you've got the right job, you can't wait to get started in the morning. And at the end of the day, you just feel a small regret that it's time to stop working. Not, oh, geez, this is terrible, I have to go home. But geez, like, oh boy, I wish I had a little bit more time to finish this thing I'm working on. Just that little tinge of regret. If you feel that, if you get up in the morning, it's like, I can't wait to get in here. Or if you're sitting there on Sunday night thinking about the week and you're excited, then that job is really doing it for you. Conversely, if you're dragging yourself in, and we've talked about this before, in the last few years in my last corporate job, I'd typically get in there between 8:15 and 8:20, and over a course of about 4 or 5 years, I wasn't getting in until 9 o'clock, and I wasn't doing anything different. There was nothing in my routine that was changing. I wasn't going to bed any later. There was nothing else happening in my life. I just didn't feel motivated to get to work, and I became aware of that over several months and several years, that I just could see, that energy ebbing. And I stayed to when I qualified for retirement, which gave me all kinds of additional benefits to just leaving outright. But I sacrificed a couple of years of feeling really bored at my job, before I could leave and reap the benefits of that retirement status. But to me, that energy level and how do you think of, how do you feel when you think about work is a great indicator of, are you really excited to go to work? And if you're not, and if in fact, you can be ambivalent. And we talked about this, about, engagement scores and, how people feel about their work. And, we only know about a third of us are really excited to go to work. The rest of us are either ambivalent, and then there's the 15% that really dread going to work. And if you're in the 15% that dreads going to work, if the thought of going to work makes you just feel like, I can't keep doing this, you're well past time to look for another work, to look for another job. Have you ever felt that, Ed? Have you ever felt like, I just can't. Just can't. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a tough place to be. And when you're there, again, it might be just temporary. Maybe you just need to get through the week so you can get to the weekend, get a couple of days rest. And then, on Monday, you're feeling like, okay, I can go back to this. I feel good about it again. But if it's week after week after week, where every day, it's just like, I cannot do this, then you should really take a serious look at your job and why are you putting yourself through that? Some other ththings to look at are this procrastination is a great indicator, because again, you typically don't procrastinate consciously. It's not, I'm not going to do this. We'll tell ourselves, I'm going to try to do this, but then something will distract me. And if you continually get distracted and you can't do the work, you can't make yourself do the work, you're not engaging with it, that's a pretty good indication as well that there's something wrong. And, again, you can pay a lot of attention to sort of external rational type factors, but I think the answer, that we're talking about here is really going to show up first in your emotions and your feelings, because your subconscious is going to become aware of your ennui much faster, much sooner Because I mean, you're going to feel these things. You may not, your mind may not let you feel these things, but you're going to feel them. And if you're aware of how these, you're aware of how your behaviors are changing and how you're feeling about things when you think about work, that'll be sort of an early warning sign or an early indicator of, okay, there's something here I need to pay a lot more attention. The other thing to think about is sickness, right? I mean, there's those mental things, like dreading going to work and procrastinating your work. But, if you're getting sick a lot more, it's possible that the stress of not liking your job and not feeling like it's giving you much is showing up physically. I mean, we all know that stress shows up in your physical health. And, if you've been getting more colds than usual, if you're feeling sicker than usual, if you're calling in sick more than usual, that's another thing. That's another indicator to say, okay, maybe I need to examine this a little bit more closely. Maybe I really need to think about, okay, do I need to really be thinking about work here? Other ways to think, are you venting about it when you get together with your family and friends? Are you just complaining about work all the time? Or are you able to kind of find balance and share with them some good times and good things that have happened as well as things that happen? But if all you're doing is venting about it, and maybe you ask your friends, hey, when I talk about work, do I ever tell you anything good about it? And what you're sharing, your positive and negative impressions of work, what you're sharing with your friends and family can be a really good indicator as well as how you're feeling about your work. And if all you're doing is venting, maybe you need to explore those a little bit more. Some of the things you can do rationally is just kind of say, okay, well, let me sit down and think about what have I learned in the last 3 months? What have I done differently? What's a new skill I've picked up? What's new knowledge that's going to help me in my career? These are all just things about, am I growing? Am I being challenged in my work? And if you can sit down and list, 2 or 3 things that in the last 2 or 3 months you've added to your repertoire of talents and capabilities, then your growth is still happening. Professional growth is still happening. You may still feel crappy about the job and you may want to go for some other reason. But one of the reasons you might go, even if you like what you're doing, is you realize I'm not growing, I'm not adding to my capabilities. And especially early in your career, you're going to want to add a lot. And so if you're not getting those things, even if you've got a great team that you're working with, and even if you like your customers and your company has great culture, you're not growing, you might want to think, okay, this gives me a lot of emotional satisfaction, but I'm not growing. I'm not building skills. I'm not, I just need to, I might need a new company because I need to grow. And I'm not doing it right now. And finally, I think and this kind of goes a little bit about venting. How do you talk about your job to your friends and family? Do you end up justifying making excuses for things that are happening? Because that's kind of a way, if you find yourself sort of overcompensating for things, these things are happening at work, but it's not a bad thing because all these rationalizations and justifications, that's a pretty good indicator too, that you're really not comfortable. You're kind of split, that you still feel loyalty to your job and your company, but you're almost protesting too much about it. So I think those are when you start to see those things happening and you start to feel those things, those are the indicators I think you want to pay attention to and kind of clue into and do maybe a deeper dive when you start to have some of those things or start to notice some of those things.
All right. So you've just described a lot of how I feel about my current job.
Really? Okay.
So if I'm feeling a little bit negative, should I quit?
I think you gotta, it becomes sort of a, balance the scale or, balance the scales, figure out the scales. And I wouldn't say it automatically means you should quit your job, but when you're feeling those things, you've got to explore them. And I think the question that you have to ask yourself is, well, I think the first thing you have to recognize is that you need it to change, right? Something has to change because you're not getting what you need out of your job. It's causing you stress, and anything that's causing you a great deal of stress without delivering satisfaction is, you're out of balance in that sense. So you might, but the question is it a short-term imbalance or a long-term imbalance? Because the short-term imbalance, maybe there's things that you can do in your company, if not in your current role, that can get you back on an even keel and get you back into balance, where your sacrifices and the things that you're devoting to the job is returning to you everything you want it to. So I think you've got to kind of make the assessment: is this something that I can change in my role, in my job, in my company? Or is this something that, what I want is not going to be possible, in my firm? And so, a lot of it depends. We go back to all those reasons to quit. I mean, you got all kinds of external factors and all kinds of internal factors, and whatever it is that's causing the stress and causing the disconnect, causing the anxiety, causing the negative feelings, you really want to spend some time, figure it out, figure what it is that's causing you this and why that's happening, and then see if you can solve the problem. We've talked the last couple of weeks about, you've got a relationship with work. It is a relationship. And, we talked last week, every relationship requires open and honest communication. And so, this isn't a mystery. Apparently we have a package that was just delivered.
Nice.
Come on, come here. All right, Roxy is on the job, obviously. Roxy, stop. Roxy, stop. Shh, come here. Come here. I know. Good job. Okay, thank you. Okay, up you go. All right. Hopefully you can cut that out of the your piece there.
Yeah,
very good. You took care of it, right? Anyway, so before we were so rudely interrupted by our Amazon driver, the thing to think about is, can you make a change? Can you have that open conversation with your workplace, with your boss, with your managers, with your team, and say, hey, I'm not getting what I need. This is what I need. Can we come to an accommodation where you get what you need, the tasks, the duties, the responsibilities get executed, and I get what I need. I get, better feedback. I get more raise. I get, whatever it is that's causing that stress and that disconnect, and have that conversation. There shouldn't be secrets here about the job and, the work that you're doing and what the company needs from you. So have that conversation and see if it's possible so you don't have to quit. You don't have to start over again somewhere else. On the other hand, if you make the assessment that says, okay, there really isn't any place for me to go. I'm bored in my current job. There's really no other job that I'm interested in doing at this company, this organization. Then that's a pretty clear indication. Okay, I need to move on. Other things, geez, my boss just got replaced. Okay, I don't like my new boss. We have a terrible relationship. My boss doesn't respect me. I don't respect my boss, whatever that is. We're just out of sorts. We have different priorities, different goals. How likely is it that your boss is going to change again? It's not unheard of. Obviously changes happen, but if you've got a new boss, it's probably going to be, all things being equal, probably 2 to 3 years before you're going to have a new boss again. And you have to say, can I really work with this person? Can I make it work for a couple of years? And if the answer is no, then, probably need to move on. Either leave your job, even if you stay in the company or the organization, or just leave the company overall if you can. So, I think it's kind of you ask the question, I'm feeling negative about my job, I should just quit. It's kind of like, not necessarily. It's a 2-step process. You have to figure out why it is that you're dissatisfied, and then, is anything going to change? Can you change that in your current situation? If you can, great. If you can't, then it's probably time to leave. Yeah.
So it sounds like I did the first step right then.
Yeah, if you've identified where the problems are, where the friction points are, and why
I've met with my boss.
What's that?
And I've met with my boss. So.
And you had met with your boss, and you had the conversations. Good for you. Because that's the right way to do it. It's mature. It's recognizing that, hey, we have a relationship and we need to communicate in this relationship, and I'm communicating with you, telling you what I think.
Well, I don't have all the information post-meeting yet. Should that maybe the turnout not go so well, how do I go about quitting?
So when you decide that, what, this is not going to work for me, it's like any relationship. You want to do it quickly, you want to do it cleanly, and you want to do it definitively. and you want to do it kindly. There's no reason to burn bridges. There's no reason, a working relationship, even more so than a personal relationship, you don't bring the same emotion to it that you do in a personal relationship. And so it doesn't need to be as contentious or as intimidating. This is a professional relationship, still a relationship, but it's a professional relationship. And again, you're only bringing part of yourself to this relationship, the part that you need to bring to be able to deliver the goods for, for what they're compensating you for. So, so it's a breakup, but it's not exactly like a personal breakup, because again, the emotions shouldn't be quite as high. But you explain your feelings. You explain the decision you've made, or you tell them the decision you've made, and then you explain it. You want to do it in person, and you want to do it in private. Again, you want to have respect for the, for the relationship, and you want to honor that. And so you want to do it in person. You don't break up by text. You don't break up by email. You show up. You own it. You own your decision, and you also make it very clear that this is the decision, and you're moving on. That you don't want to leave any open door here. That just makes things messy, and you don't want this. This needs to be clean. And there's no reason for recriminations. There's no reason to, get angry or upset. This is a professional thing. This isn't working for me any longer. I've decided to move on. I'm going to give you my notice, and that's basically it. And explain if they have any questions. They may want feedback so that they can get some sense for why they're losing good employees, or why they're why people are moving on. And you should give them that candid but kind feedback. And then, and be done. And then when you're done with that, and this is a little bit different than what you do with a personal breakup, you want to document it. You want to document it in a letter or in an email. No texts, nothing like that. No Snapchats, nothing like that. What you're going to do is you'll write a letter, a physical letter that you'll give to your manager or your HR department, or you'll just email. And again, an email is a great way to document this. That says, for our discussion, just want to let you know that I've decided to resign from the company. Here's my notice. I'll be leaving in, as we agreed or as we discussed, I'll be leaving in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 1 week, whatever you discussed, and just document the discussion that you had, and send it in so that there's no miscommunication. There's no, you want things to be very clear, and that's the way you do it. So, when you get to the point where you've made your assessments, you've decided you're going to leave, do it quickly, do it cleanly, do it honestly and openly, and kindly, and then document it, and then move on to your next thing. One of the things we haven't talked about is, do you want to have a job? And we did. I think in season 1 we talked about how do I get a job how do I find a new job when I've got a job that I had, already have a job, and you may, even when you decide to quit, that doesn't mean you need to quit now. You want to put together a plan that says, okay, I'm going to quit. I've decided to leave. That decision's made. That doesn't mean you have to go in the next day and quit. What you have to do is put a plan together that says, okay, how am I going to transition to whatever's next? And maybe it does. Maybe it does mean that I just quit, and I'm moving across the country, so I'm just going to quit and find something, and I'll deal with it when I get there. Or it's, what, I don't want to be without income, so I'm going to quit, but I'm going to have to find a job before I can give my notice. And I'll still give my, go back and listen to our episode about how to do that. You want to give honest effort, and, but you still have to do what's right for you. So you've got to make your decision. But when you decide, and when it's, and when you have to communicate that decision, that's when you kind of say, okay, this is what's going on. I'm leaving. Here's my notice. And then you document it. So does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions about our?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So we've come to the end of season 3, a workplace issue. If our listeners have any thoughts about what they want us to talk about for the next 10 episodes or so, please let us know. But I think that's all we have for today. No follow-up items that need to be researched.
Nope.
And no swearing yet again.
Ooh.
Outstanding. We won't have a topic for next week because we'll be off for a few weeks anyway, as we put together our season 4. But do you have any ideas for season 4? Ann?
I don't right now, but I'm seeing in our script that you do.
Well, no, I just want to, like I say, we don't have any ideas necessarily, but, perhaps our listeners, viewers have questions that they don't want to ask their parents because it's too awkward. But, we can talk
Oh,
about
I
it.
can ask mine.
That's right. Whatever it is, I suspect naked time will figure prominently in season 4. So.
Terrible. Terrible.
It's a great
All right,
idea.
well, in the
It's a great
meantime,
idea.
in our little hiatus, you can find us on awkwardfamilyconversations.com, on Twitter at awkwardfamilyc1 for some regular Claire content, since we won't have episode content. You can find us on YouTube at Awkward Family Conversations for the full unedited video, including Roxy's barking occasionally and Claire's tail flicking around.
Yes.
You can find us on Facebook at Awkward Family Conversations for videos and Claire content, all of the above. And then if you just want to listen to the edited content, so you don't have to hear Roxy barking, you can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Be sure to subscribe, rate, review. The most important one is subscribing. But if you want to write a review, that's nice. Also do that.
Excellent.
Awesome. And then, let us know what you think, questions, suggestions, and what do you want to ask your parents? It's too awkward, through comments, DMs, and of course, personal text messages. Or if you just hang out with me, because guess what? I'm fully vaccinated. So is my dad, and we can go out now.
As am I. As of Thursday, I am, and it's Sunday now. So I've been, I'm free and clear for 3 days here. So
Free
very
and clear.
excited about that. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ed.
Well, as we can be unleashed.
Yes. Well, and we'll be able to get together before too much longer. So very good. All right, my love, I love you, and we'll talk to you sooner than we will probably see you again.
That's true. All right. Love you, Dad.
All right. Love you too, sweetie.